gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Hank Knight and Sarah Myers.
Good morning, all. My name is Hank Knight, as you heard. I'm director of the Cohen Center for Holocaust and Genocide Studies at Keene State College, and it is my privilege to welcome you to campus and to this morning's event hosted by the college through the good works of my colleagues engaged in the American Democracy Project, a partner initiative begun in 2003 by the American Association of State Colleges and Universities and active on our campus for nearly a decade. The American Democracy Project is a nonpartisan, multi-campus initiative focused on higher education's role in preparing the next generation of engaged citizens in the ongoing project that is our nation's civic heritage. As one of over 220 campus partners, Keene State College has developed a variety of faculty, staff, and student activities designed to help our students become active, discerning citizens, fostering what we hope is a lasting passion for civic engagement that extends far beyond their college years. Just as clearly, it is our hope that their engagement, our engagement really, is distinguished by the abiding sense of what it means to be an informed local, regional, national, and global citizen of the multiple worlds that we share with one another. We are fortunate as citizens of New Hampshire to find ourselves intimately engaged on a regular basis with the democratic process that distinguishes our nation. As the public liberal arts college of New Hampshire, we provide hospitable space for open dialogue to discuss issues that are fundamental to our democracy, and we welcome the opportunity to engage our students, our faculty, our staff, and our community partners in this important political process. As the late Granny D was fond of reminding us, democracy is a verb, and we at Keene State College are pleased to explore that verb in action today with all of you. In that spirit, we welcome you and look forward to the opportunity to hear from our very special guests today. But first, please welcome Keene State College senior Sarah Myers.
I'm not quite sure why I was handed a microphone when I came out here. My name is Sarah Myers, and I'm really honored to welcome you all here today to this wonderful event, and as well as our guests here. As a student here at Keene State, I work with the American Democracy Project. The American Democracy Project provides opportunities for students to partake in civic engagement opportunities through bringing events such as these to campus, as well as hosting policy panels, student summits, speakers, and a lot more. But the American Democracy Project isn't wholly responsible for the level of civic engagement on this campus, nor is it responsible for the thousands of hours students here at Keene State put into serving their community each semester. That is entirely you guys, the students here at Keene State, the individuals that make up our student body that makes Keene such a politically and civically engaged campus. I hear that we're tier 1 in political engagement. I'm not entirely sure what that means, but it's a good place to be. Both on campus and in the United States, we lead by example. We do what we know to be right, and we support our underprivileged citizens, not only because we know that a society will be judged on the basis of how it treats its weakest members, as Pope John Paul II so famously said, but because we know it's the right thing to do. And because we know that when our most vulnerable citizens are better off, that we are all better off. Chelsea Clinton has worked throughout her life helping and advocating for others. She's educated young girls about poverty, homelessness, food insecurity, and more, some really deep subject. And furthermore, she's actively worked to empower these young women to be leaders in their community, and to be advocates for change. She's the vice chair of the Clinton Foundation, which provides humanitarian aid throughout the world in areas struggling with poverty and HIV and AIDS. The foundation works to promote, or to end climate change, to promote the status of girls and women internationally, and to promote economic development in the areas that need it. And that's just a small portion of what Chelsea Clinton has done, both at home and abroad, to make the world in which we live a better place. And because the election's just 4 days away, I'd like to take a moment to talk about what happens next, what happens after the election, after our votes have been cast and the ballots have been counted, after our next public officials have been elected, because even then, our work won't be done. It's our responsibility to communicate with our elected officials, whether we voted for them or not, about what it is that we value, and to hold these individuals accountable for the promises that they've made to us throughout our election, or throughout the election. So I urge you to reach out to your representatives, to speak to them. Several of them will be here tonight, or this morning, to write to them, to call them, and make your voice be heard. I urge you to carry forth the momentum here today into serving your community, into working for the causes that we've been so vocal about throughout this election. Because through leadership and through volunteerism and through the passion that's within each and every one of ourselves, we all have the power to be a driving force of good in our communities, to help those around us who aren't as fortunate as ourselves. And so I want to see all of you out there on Wednesday, November 9th, after you've casted your ballots, connecting to organizations that serve our community, to help make the world and our home a better place to live, because our work still isn't done. Thank you.
Please welcome to the stage candidate for State Senate, Kahn.
Woo! I believe that she will win. I am Kahn. I'm running for State Senate from District 10. Thank you. For 28 years, I served Keene State College as Vice President for Finance and Planning and as interim president during that term. But having retired, I found a new vocation. And it is to represent the citizens of State District 10, which represents Keene and the surrounding 14 towns around it. I look forward to fighting for some common issues that are very important in this election: education and workforce opportunity, access to health care, safer environment, and a safer world for our future generations. These are common themes. You've heard them from a lot of Democratic candidates. I am proud to join the coordinated campaign, this grassroots effort that has been formed around Stronger Together, the Hillary Clinton campaign to elect the first female president of the United States. And the stakes could not be higher in New Hampshire. Remember 2000 in the election of Bush and Gore. And remember the 4 electoral votes that separated those two candidates when the votes were all tallied. The U.S. Senate seat that Maggie Hassan is seeking is one of 9. 9 of the total 34 that are up for re-election. There are only 9 that are targeted for possible flips. Maggie Hassan could make a difference in the U.S. Congress. And when it comes to state governments, of all of the state chambers in the nation, there are only 20 that could possibly flip from Republican to Democrat or vice versa. Only 20, and 2 of them are here, the Senate in New Hampshire and the House of Representatives in New Hampshire. This election matters, and the stakes could not be higher in New Hampshire. If you are a college student or you're an educator, the stakes could not be higher. Who is leading on education policies? Who's talking about the price of higher education and lending practices in this country to students? It is Democratic candidates. Bernie did a great job. Annie Custer's done a great job. Jeanne Shaheen has done a great job. These are Democrats that believe that we shouldn't be making money on student loans, that we should be able to refinance loans at the same rates that homeowners can refinance at. That's what they've been working for. Maggie Hassan led the fight to freeze tuition in this state, and I helped join her in that fight. I know how hard she worked for the innovative economy and for access to the innovative economy for New Hampshire citizens. That's important. It matters. And you can compare the tax plans that are out for both parties, the Trump plan and the Clinton plan. And these have been fact-checked by the Tax Policy Center. And the cost of a Trump tax plan, which gives a tax break to the top 1% in our economy, the top 1% wage earners in our country, is going to cost us, over 8 years, would cost us $7 trillion in additional debt. Ooh. And you look at the Hillary plan, it's tax neutral. What does it do? It taxes the top 1% and benefits children with children's tax credits and families that are raising those kids and lower income people. That is building the economy from the middle out, not from trickle down, trumped up economics. This election matters. And it matters when everybody in our economy can contribute equally, can contribute to their opportunity and to our nation's growth. That is what Hillary Clinton will bring to the White House, to the leadership of our nation. The stakes could not be higher, and she is ready to lead on day one. These Democratic, down-ticket ballot people are also ready to lead on day one. I'm ready for the Senate. Colin Van Ostern is ready to lead the state as governor. Annie Custer and Maggie Hassan are ready to lead in the U.S. Congress. And Hillary Clinton is ready to lead us as President of the United States. Stronger together. Thank you.
Good morning. How is everybody? Great. Yes, good morning. I'm Molly Kelly. I'm the state senator here, and it's been truly my privilege to represent all of you for the last 10 years. Thank you so much for all of your support. And I cannot tell you just how great it is and how wonderful it feels to be back on this campus. I stand here today as a very proud Keene State College graduate. And you know, my education here on this campus opened many, many doors for me, and I cannot be more grateful to this college. It is because of my education at Keene State College that I was able, as a single mother of 3 young children, to go on to law school, build a successful career, and serve these last 10 years in the state Senate. So I know firsthand the importance of an education, and so does Hillary Clinton. I know firsthand how difficult it is to afford a college education, and so does Hillary Clinton. And that is why I am proud to stand here today with you to ensure that we elect Hillary Clinton as the next president of the United States. And I'm with her. Are you with her? I'm with her. I'm with Hillary because she believes that all Americans should have an equal opportunity for a college education. As you know, it's Hillary's plan to make debt-free college available to everyone and to liberate the millions of Americans who already have student debt. I'm with Hillary because she believes that we can take on climate change and make America the world's clean energy superpower. All right. And I'm with Hillary because she believes that we can have an economy that works for all the people, not just those at the top. And I'm with Hillary because she believes that all people deserve and have the right to be treated with dignity and respect. And I'm with Hillary. And I'm with Hillary because she is the most competent, the most experienced, and the most prepared person to be the next president of our United States. You know, Hillary Clinton, as a lawyer, when she started her career, she started working for the Children's Defense Fund. And she has never stopped, and I mean never stopped, not one day has she stopped working for children and families. That's who she is. We know how hard Hillary worked as First Lady to implement a health care plan that would ensure that all Americans have access to a quality health care. Hillary started this conversation and remains committed to the very, very end. That's who she is. Hillary stood up early for women's rights while attending the UN World Conference for Women in Beijing, China. She challenged the world when she said, and please join me, human rights are women's rights, and women's rights are human rights. And she has never stopped fighting for women's equality and dignity for each human being. That's who she is. Hillary served in the United States Senate for 8 years, working across party lines to get the job done, and we know how hard that is. And then as Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton built strong, sustainable, and trusting relationships all over the world. They're waiting for her, and that's who she is. She is competent, she is experienced, she is prepared, and she is ready to go. You know, Jay mentioned and others mentioned how much is at stake, and I don't think I have to tell all of you just how much is at stake in this election. Dignity and respect is at stake in this election. Compassion for each other is at stake in this election. A future of hope for our children is at stake in this election. Equal opportunity for all Americans is at stake in this election. And a woman's right to make her own health care decisions is at stake in this election. You know, this election is not about which party you belong to. This election is about who we are as a nation. And you, all of you here, you hold the power of the outcome of this election in your hands. You hold the future of this country, this entire country, in your hands. This is serious business. This election is not a game. This is not a TV reality show. This is not a joke. It is about our lives. It is about your future, and it is about what we are teaching our children. That is what is real in this election. And there is only one real choice to be made in this presidential election, and that choice is Hillary Clinton. Because Hillary has shown us how strong she really is, and how she will never, ever give up fighting for a just and a fair democracy. Never. She will build an America we can all believe in, an America that believes in hope and love, not fear and revenge. An America where women are respected and immigrants are welcomed. And an America that embraces the diversity that makes our nation great. You know, we only have just 4 days left until this country elects a new president. After November 8th, there will not be a second chance. So raise your voices, talk to your friends, make sure that you register them to vote, get them out, knock on doors, make phone calls, and of course, make sure that you vote as well. You will make the difference. And together, we can, we will, and we must elect Hillary Clinton as the next president of the United States. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Please welcome Andrew Volinsky.
Hey, good morning. My name is Andrew Volinsky, and I don't have to stand behind that. I'm running for the Executive Council in this area, District 2, which includes Keene and the western part of Cheshire County. The Executive Council is the state's board of directors. We're the economic stewards for the state. There will be 5 of us. We confirm all the judges and the department heads, and we have to approve all state contracts over $25,000. I've never held public office before, and there are 2 reasons why I'm running. The first reason is that I was the lead lawyer in the Claremont school funding case. From that experience, I understand state government, and I understand how unfair it can be. And I would like to be an executive counselor who corrects and addresses that unfairness. That's the first reason. The second reason that I'm running for office is that during the presidential primary, I was the lawyer for Bernie Sanders in New Hampshire. I was a Sanders delegate in Philadelphia, and I'm endorsed by Our Revolution. Bernie Sanders was clearly my first choice, but I can say now unequivocally that I'm with Hillary. Secretary Clinton, by her experience, her skill, and her temperament, has proven herself qualified to be our next president, and every one of you should vote for her. One of the things I hear often from my Bernie friends is, should they vote the top line? Should they fill in a third-party candidate? Let me give you an example of why they should not do that, and why, if you are considering that, you should not do that. A number of us worked very, very hard on the National Democratic Platform and on the New Hampshire Democratic Platform. I want to read to you one small excerpt from the National Democratic Platform, and at the same time urge you to read the platforms yourself. They're online. Let me read 3 sentences. Democrats believe that the current minimum wage is a starvation wage and must be increased to a living wage. No one who works full-time should have to raise a family in poverty. We believe that Americans should earn at least $15 an hour. And we believe that Americans have the right to form or join a union, and will work in every way we can in Congress and the federal government, in states and with the private sector to reach this goal. This language could have come from any of the speeches that Senator Sanders has given. It is our responsibility to enforce this platform. The values that I have are the same values as Secretary Clinton has. She may express them differently. She may prioritize them in a slightly different way. But our values are on paper, and it is our responsibility to see that she is elected and then remember the contract formed by the platforms of the national and the state party. Let me make one final pitch and then be done. Given the acrimony at the federal level, effective public policy going forward in the near term is going to be made at the state level. That means you have to pay attention and vote the down ballot. So if you care about a woman's right to choose, that's a state issue. If you care about Medicaid and access to health care for our neighbors, that is a state issue. If you, like me, think the death penalty is a scourge on our existence, its abolition is a state issue. So I ask you, no, I beg you, to go all the way down the ballot. Vote Clinton at the top, and vote every level from executive council to state senate to state rep to county government, and let's make a difference. Thank you.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Emily Getoff, and I am the New Hampshire Coordinated Campaign Organizer here for Keene State College. I am absolutely thrilled to be standing here with so many incredible students from Keene as we prepare to hear Chelsea Clinton speak to us today. When I arrived here in Keene and began to meet the incredible students from this college, I was just absolutely awed by their passion for this election and the level of organization they have accomplished and continue to grow. I am inspired every day by the dedication and the heart that exists on this campus and within our amazing campus team. And we are so fortunate to have Chelsea Clinton here with us today in this incredible community as we come together to elect Hillary Clinton on November 8th. So, as a woman and as a recent college graduate, I deeply admire Hillary and Chelsea Clinton's progressive ideals, in particular, their commitment to improving the lives of women. I grew up hearing the powerful stories of my grandmother and my mother who fought for their voting rights and for their rights as women in this nation. And standing here today as a woman in 2016, I am so excited to be working to help elect Hillary Clinton as our first woman president. So that we can continue to build upon the progress that we have made rather than move backwards. And like Chelsea Clinton, I believe that Hillary is going to make a phenomenal leader and role model for all people in this country. So as we head into the final hours of this campaign, we need all hands on deck to make sure that we are doing absolutely everything that we can to reach our friends, our family, our neighbors, and talk to them about why it is so important to elect Democrats this election down the ticket. So that means that we need to talk to every single one of you before you leave today. And please, all of you, pledge to join us in this effort and sign up to volunteer with your local campaign office, and for students out there with our campus campaign team. Keeping up to date with everything going on with the campaign is super easy as sending a text message. So please pull out your phone right now and text KSC to 47246. This is such an exciting time to be a millennial, a Democrat, and a voter, and I am so excited to work with all of you to make history in just 4 days. So don't forget that you can register to vote at the polls on Election Day. So everyone over 18 who is a U.S. citizen can vote in Keene if you live here during school. It doesn't matter if you live on or off campus or if you go home for breaks. Polls are open from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m., but be sure to leave yourself a good 45 to 60 minutes to get to the polling place, register to vote, and cast your ballot in 4 days. So if you live on campus, most people will vote at the Michael E.J. Blastos Community Room, which is next to the Keene Police Department. And if you live off campus, you can find out your polling place at iwillvote.com/nh. And there's too much at stake to sit on the sidelines in this election, so let's get out there and vote. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Allie McNamee.
Hey guys, my name is Allie McNamee. I'm a senior at Keene State and a fellow with the New Hampshire Democratic Party. My freshman year of college, I took a class about women's rights, which is honestly a topic that I had never spent too much time thinking about. It didn't take me long to realize how blind I had been up to that point about how unfairly women are treated in our society. I was disgusted to learn that survivors of sexual assault were often told to keep quiet about their experience, and often not believed by law enforcement, schools, and even their friends and family. I read story after story of women in colleges being assaulted, and the schools doing nothing to help punish their attacker. I saw boys grabbing girls' bodies and getting mad when they were told not to, and I saw them try to take home girls who had had too much to drink. Everywhere I looked, there seemed to be another reason to protect and improve the rights of women, and that inspired me to get involved with the Clinton campaign. Women have come a long way, especially in recent years, but that does not mean that we can afford to stop fighting against people who want to bring us back. We have a lot at stake this election, and I support Hillary Clinton because she supports women. I know that she has fought and that she will continue to fight for us. I support Hillary Clinton because I think that everybody deserves to get an education without going thousands of dollars into debt. You should not have to have a lot of money to learn a skill that will make you a living. I support her because I think that everybody deserves affordable health care. No one should have to go into poverty just because they get sick. I support her because she supports the LGBTQ community. Nobody should be discriminated against because of who they are or because of who they love. I support her because climate change is a real and dangerous threat to the entire world, and not just a hoax perpetrated by the Chinese. I support her because she is a good negotiator, diplomat, listener, and overall, a good person. Nobody knows how amazing this woman is better than her daughter, Chelsea Clinton. Hillary Clinton is the only candidate who can move this country in a positive direction, and I believe that she will be an incredible president. Any student who lives in New Hampshire during school can vote here, even if you are an out-of-state resident. You can even register at the polls on Tuesday. Make it to the polls on Tuesday, because this progressive agenda needs as many votes as it can get. Thank you for your support. And now let's give a great big Keene welcome to Chelsea Clinton.
Thank you so much, Allie, for that introduction. Hello, Keene. So that was Allie's first speech. And I think she did a really fantastic job. So please just give her another round of applause. I want to thank Keene for welcoming me here so warmly, and particularly all of you for taking time out of your days for being here. I want to thank everyone who spoke already, Dr. Hank Knight, Sarah Myers, Jay Kahn, Molly Kelly, Andrew Walensky, Emily Getoff. I think all of them really demonstrate why, as you heard Andrew make the case so passionately, it really matters who is elected at every level of government, and why it's so important to turn out on Tuesday so we can turn New Hampshire blue up and down the ballot. And I I just really want to thank the more than 100 organizers, including Emily, who are working so hard here to do that, to support my mom, to support Democrats up and down the ballot. I want to thank the more than 12,000 people who have volunteered throughout the state as part of my mom's campaign for knocking on more than 600,000 doors and making more than 2 million phone calls. So I just am so grateful, and I know that our work isn't done because we do have 4 more days. And depending on your perspective, that either feels just right around the corner or, oh my gosh, 4 more days. I feel both of those things. But I really believe this is the most important presidential election of my lifetime. And so I'm gonna do everything I possibly can to make the case about why I think we both have to defeat Donald Trump and elect my mom. And I think both of those are really, really important. I also, I own up front, I'm deeply biased. I make no claim to the contrary. Now, as a mom myself, I just hope that my 2 kids are someday as proud to be my children as I am proud to be my mom's daughter. But for me, this election is first and foremost about my children and about the country, the world, and the future that I want for them and their generation to grow up in. So I want to share a few thoughts about what I think is at stake in this election. And I love my mom too. And why I think we can't sit on the sidelines. And goodness gracious, they can talk about whatever they want to talk about, and we're going to talk about what's actually at stake in this election. Because I do believe that everything's at stake in this election. As you heard in the earlier speeches, everything really is on the ballot. So whatever it is that you care most about, it's on the ballot. As you heard Allie say, science is on the ballot, effectively. College affordability, graduate school affordability is on the ballot in this election. A woman's right to make our own decisions is on the ballot in this election. Whether or not we protect marriage equality and get to full equality in our country is on the ballot in this election. Whether or not we raise the minimum wage is on the ballot in this election. Whether or not we finally get to equal pay for equal work is on the ballot in this election. And something that matters a lot to me is that whenever my mom talks about the need to raise the minimum wage, she always talks about the need to finally get to equal pay for equal work for women and also for Americans with disabilities. Because the only legalized discrimination that still exists in our country is that it is legal for employers to pay Americans with disabilities less than 1/3 of the federal minimum wage. That is unconscionable in the 21st century. So whether you care about any of those things that have already been talked about today, or whether you care about criminal justice reform or gun violence prevention or addressing our heroin and opioid overdose epidemic in our country, or addressing the teenage suicide epidemic in our country, all of this is on the ballot in this election. Because my mother's the only person who has real plans to address the challenges that we face, and the only person who has a real record of actually working to address the challenges in those areas. Because sometimes I think I have a rather old-fashioned view in this election season, beyond the fact that I believe in science, and that what someone has done and has stood for and has fought for is a good indication of what they will stand for, they will fight for, and they will deliver on in the White House. And so, for me, I'm going to do everything I can to just talk to as many people as possible about what's really at stake in this election. And I also am never going to forget the stories I've heard that really bring this home to my heart. The stories that I carry with me every day that say to me, we have to prove that love trumps hate isn't just a slogan, and we have to prove that stronger together isn't just a slogan. So just a few stories. I was in Pennsylvania in September, and after an event like this was shaking hands and urging people to register to vote and hopefully to vote for my mom. And a woman said, "Can I share with you part of the reason I'm supporting your mom?" And I said, "Yes, thank you." She said, "I came to the United States 12 years ago from Guatemala to go to graduate school at Penn State. And I came to go to graduate school because I thought if I got a graduate degree, I could provide a better life for my then 6-month-old son. Maybe get a better job back in Guatemala, or maybe even get a job here in the United States." She said, "I got a job here, and now my son and I are both proud American citizens." He went back to school at the time she was telling me the story less than 2 weeks ago, and he's already had 3 different kids in his middle school say to him either, "Go back to Mexico," or "I can't wait until we build a wall to keep people like you out." I was in North Carolina a couple weeks after that, and again, after an event, kind of shaking hands, urging people to register to vote, hopefully to vote for my mom, and a little girl grabbed my hand. She said, "Your mom must win." I said, "I agree, she must win." I said, "But why do you think she must win?" And she told me her name. She told me she was 8 years old. She said, "Well, 2 reasons." I said, "Okay, I have a lot more than 2 reasons, but what are your 2 reasons?" She said, "Well, one, it's time for a girl." I said, "I agree, it's time for a girl." And then she looked at me and she said something that broke my heart. She said, "Well, she also has to win because the boys in my school say that if Donald Trump wins, my dad's gonna have to go back into the closet, and there are monsters there." And I looked at her and I said, "There are monsters there, and we're not gonna let that happen." So when we say that our children are listening, that's not rhetorical. The Trump effect, the rise in bullying, is very painfully real. I thankfully, though, have lost count of the number of stories that I've heard from young people who told me they know they had health insurance because of the Children's Health Insurance Program, and that health insurance literally saved their lives. What enabled them to have the 5 heart surgeries they needed, or the early intervention they needed to treat their diabetes, or to get the chemotherapy they needed for their leukemia. Or the young people I've met who know they were adopted out of the foster care system because of my mom's work to overhaul adoption out of the foster care system and to make it easier for qualified foster parents to adopt their foster children. Or the young people I've met who know that their parents who were 9/11 first responders are still getting health care because of my mother's work. Or the young woman I met who was both a graduate of Head Start and Harvard and believed she wouldn't have been the second without the first, and she knew that my mom had led the effort to double federal funding for early Head Start programs, and that she was a recipient of that. So that is the type of president that I want for our children. Someone who believes that the real test of the job is what more can you always be doing to expand more opportunities for more people. And I just couldn't imagine a clearer contrast in this election, and I've already owned I'm deeply biased towards my mom, because I also couldn't imagine a better grandmother for my children. But truly, a stronger contrast between someone who has spent, with all due respect to her opponent, a lot longer than 30 years in public service, with a real record of delivering better schools and better healthcare and more opportunities for more people, and someone who has really only been interested in himself. So when I think about what's at stake in this election, I think everything is at stake in this election. And I was listening to the earlier speeches, and kind of the underlying theme is that it's just not an option to stay on the sidelines. Because, since we're on a college campus, you wouldn't let someone pick out what classes you're taking this semester. You wouldn't let someone pick out what you're gonna wear next Tuesday. So why on earth would you let someone else decide the future of our country, or the future of your state or your community? So please, whatever issue you care most about, whether that is higher education affordability, whether that is protecting and improving on the Affordable Care Act, whether that is putting teachers back at the center of respecting education, whether that is actually recognizing that climate change is real, a real threat, and a real opportunity, whether that is Indigenous rights. And my mother has had an Indigenous council since, well, I'm going to respond, ma'am, since you said something. So my mother actually has had an Indigenous council since the first day of her campaign. And she absolutely believes that we need to honor Indigenous rights. She also believes that it's not only about water rights and the environment, it also has to be about investing and fully funding the Indian Health Service, as one example. It's about ensuring that communities in general are at the center of self-determination. That should be true for Indigenous communities, that should be true for Keene, that should be true for anyone anywhere across our country. Again, though, I would argue that represents a very clear difference between my mother and her opponent. And in some ways, I think that makes kind of the perfect place to close. No, I don't mind. You can raise your, and I'm responding, yes, ma'am. Yeah, no, I don't. This can be interactive. You can shout. I'm not going to shout back because I'm not a shouter, but I'm happy to respond. And so I would hope that it would matter that my mom has had an Indigenous council from the beginning of her campaign, that she has a platform to address climate change, to address Indigenous rights, and that we can't only see Indigenous rights through the prism of climate change and water rights and land rights, as important as all of those are, because we also historically have underfunded the Indian Health Service, we've underfunded schools on Native American reservations, and I think we need a president who understands all of that. And I've never heard Donald Trump talk about any of that. So I would say, whether this is what you care most about, or whether you care most about anything that's been discussed here or hasn't been discussed here today, please use that to drive you to the polls, or walk to the polls, or bike to the polls, or however you get to the polls. Because as you've already heard today, we don't want to wake up on November 9th and think that we could have done more, because this is truly the future of our country. And I see so many people here who aren't old enough yet to vote. And so if you need another reason, think about the stories that I shared or the stories you may have heard about the kids who are being bullied. Think about the kids here that you may know in your own life and what you hope and want for them. Because this election is ultimately, as all elections ultimately are, about the future. And so again, as a parent, I didn't know I could care any more intensely about politics, because I have spent a lot of time at events like this in my life. Well, thank you for applauding for that. With signs, passing out stickers, kind of waving American flags, advocating, participating. But now as a parent, this just feels so intensely personal to me. And I know that clearly so many of you feel the same way, otherwise you wouldn't be here. So please, anything you can do over the next 4 days, talk to your family, your friends, strangers alike, about what's at stake, whatever it is that you care about, whether it's something you shared today or you carry in your heart, because we have to win and we have to turn New Hampshire blue from the top to the bottom of the ticket. So thank you all for all you have done and all you can do over the next 4 days. Thank you very much.
This is my